In this video lecture, we're going to discuss Java's next lexical element, comments, which are non-executable notes and documentation that appear within our Java code. Okay, let's get started. Comments are non-executable lines of text that can appear within our Java source code to document the design and operation of a program. We can use them as notes to a reader or even to our future selves about how certain code works, or perhaps why we wrote it in a certain way to begin with. Comments are non-executable, and they are completely ignored by the Java compiler. They exist solely for the benefit of the humans who write and maintain that code. As we'll see in a bit, Java supports three distinct types of comments. While comments exist primarily to document code, there are some additional secondary uses for them, and we'll examine those a bit later on. By the way, comments are another one of those lexical elements in Java that actually are common to almost all programming languages, as we'll see on the following slide. Here's an example of what comments look like in various other programming languages you may be familiar with. All of the languages listed across the top here are languages which we teach here at the college. The syntax for the two main types of comments in Java, single line and multi-line, are shown in this first column. What should be kind of heartening to you as you look at these other languages is how similar the syntax for comments is across many other programming languages. For example, the comment syntax in Java is dead identical in C++, JavaScript, and PHP. And it's reasonably similar in C and HTML. Even though VB.NET handles comments differently, it still provides for comments, as do all the other programming languages. The takeaway message here is to learn how this works in Java, and then your next programming languages will feel very familiar. As I'll probably say numerous times as we go along, this is yet another language concept which is universal across programming languages. We said there were three different types of comments, and the first one is a single line comment. As shown here, it begins with two slashes, and everything after the slashes is a comment and is ignored by the compiler. Here are some examples of single line comments. In this first part, we're using a consecutive series of single line comments as a program header. Next, here's an example of using a single line comment to document some usage of the next line of code. Another example usage of a single line comment is as some inline documentation for some program variable, for example. This can be useful to document the meaning or units of some variable. As an interesting aside, here's a true story about a software train wreck of sorts. In 1999, the NASA Mars Climate Orbiter crashed, leaving behind about $300 million of Martian space junk. You can Google this and read the details for yourself. During the ensuing investigation, the problem was ultimately traced to a units mismatch between contractors for the acceleration due to gravity. One side was using English units, one side was using SI units, and the numerical difference between these gravitational constants is roughly a factor of 3.3. One might reasonably wonder if this problem couldn't have been avoided with some simple inline documentation such as shown above. The second type of comment in Java is the multi-line comment. As shown here, its syntax is any amount of text appearing between a pair of /* and */ delimiters. This type of commenting is useful when your desired comments span multiple lines, as shown here. But it can also be used as a single line comment, as shown here. There's also a third kind of comment in Java called the Javadoc comment. It's very similar to the multi-line comment syntax, except that the opening delimiter has two asterisks instead of just one, as shown here. The utility of this type of comment is that we can mark up our code using this comment style, and then we can use the Javadoc utility to automatically create some online hyperlinked documentation. We won't cover using the Javadoc tool in this course, but you can look it up in your textbook if you're interested. We will, however, be using the end product of such Javadoc documentation in the form of the online Java API, which we'll cover a bit later on in the course. For now, here's a short preview of the type of documentation it's possible to automatically generate using Javadoc comments and the Javadoc tool. If we have some Java code open in JGrasp, all we need to do is click on this indicated documentation icon on the toolbar, which looks like a little open book. And in an instant, we can generate the documentation which appears here on the right. Let's see an example of that. To demonstrate Javadoc, what I'll do in my JGrasp session is I will select and open my Hello World program, and notice that this is exactly the program that we wrote during week 1. Notice that there are no Javadoc comments present here. There's only the multi-line comment as a header block. And what I'll do to generate documentation is I'll click on this Generate Documentation icon located next to the Compile icon in the JGrasp toolbar, and you'll see a bunch of things scrolling by here in the message window. So we'll do that. And what results is this documentation for our Hello World class. And again, remember that we didn't have any specific Javadoc comments in our file, but this is what we got very easily as some default documentation for our class. And you'll notice that this is very nicely formatted and it's hyperlinked. So for example, if I click on this print greeting method, it'll take me down to this section where there might be some comments appearing if I added Javadoc comments to my file. So this is sort of an example of what we can get very easily and very quickly as default documentation, and we would only enhance it by having Javadoc comments present in our file. So we'll be getting to the Java API later in the course, and all of the entries there will look very much like this, but I just wanted to show you that now as an initial preview.